My parents refused to believe my autism diagnosis and threw away my medical reports, saying I was just making excuses. It made them jobless. My parents never believed in autism, even when 3 different doctors diagnosed me at age 24. They said I was using a trendy label to excuse being weird and difficult. My mom said everyone was claiming to be autistic these days to avoid responsibility. My dad said in his generation, people just learned to act normal and didn't need special accommodations. They actually threw away the diagnostic report I'd paid $800 for, saying reading it would just encourage my victim mentality. For 24 years, they punished me for things I couldn't control. Meltdowns from sensory overload were called tantrums that needed discipline. Not making eye contact was disrespectful and earned groundings. Stimming by tapping or rocking meant I was acting like a baby for attention. Special interests were obsessions I needed to grow out of. They'd force me into social situations that made me physically sick, then call me dramatic when I'd shut down. They'd scream at me for not understanding sarcasm, then say I was playing dumb. When I finally got diagnosed after years of research and saving money, I thought they'd understand. Instead, they got worse. They said the doctors were scam artists selling fake disorders to millennials. They said I'd been perfectly normal until the internet convinced me otherwise. They actually told family members I was pretending to be autistic because I couldn't handle adult life. They'd invite people over and loudly explain that I was going through a phase where I thought I had autism, but they weren't enabling it. At family dinners, they'd point out every social rule I broke as proof I was choosing to be rude, not unable to understand. When I started wearing noise-canceling headphones in public, they'd rip them off saying I was being antisocial on purpose. When I finally got accommodations at work that let me thrive, they said my employer was too soft and I'd never survive in the real world. They'd constantly compare me to my cousin Tony, who they said was actually disabled because he used a wheelchair, while I was just making excuses. They'd post articles about overdiagnosis and how autism was the new fake trend. They'd comment on my friends' posts about neurodiversity saying parents needed to stop babying their kids. They'd tell anyone who'd listen that tough love would cure what they called my imaginary autism. Then my dad's company got a new CEO, Mr. Harrison, whose grandson Oliver was autistic. Not that my parents knew this at first. They just knew Mr. Harrison was bringing major changes, and everyone needed to impress him to keep their jobs. My dad spent weeks preparing for the big meeting where department heads would present their teams. He practiced his presentation 100 times, making sure everything was perfect. My mom, who worked in the same company's HR department, was in charge of organizing the welcome dinner for Mr. Harrison's family. The night of the dinner, Mr. Harrison brought his wife and Oliver, who was 16. Oliver wore headphones, carried a tablet for communication, and had a support aide with him. My parents didn't make the connection that Oliver was autistic. They just thought he was rude. My mom loudly complained to her coworker that Mr. Harrison's grandson was wearing headphones at dinner. My dad said the kid was probably spoiled and couldn't put down his electronics. They actually made jokes about Oliver needing an aide to function, saying rich kids were so pampered these days. Mr. Harrison heard everything. During the dinner, Oliver had a meltdown when the restaurant changed the menu without warning. He started rocking and hitting his hands together. My mom whispered to her table mate that if that was her kid, she'd teach him how to behave in public. My dad said loud enough for everyone to hear that some parents just didn't believe in discipline anymore. Mr. Harrison's wife was trying to calm Oliver while my parents continued their commentary about proper parenting and not indulging bad behavior. Mr. Harrison stood up and announced that his grandson was autistic and was having a sensory overload, not a tantrum. He said ignorant comments from people who didn't understand neurodiversity were exactly why he'd implemented new company policies about inclusion and accommodation. He looked directly at my parents when he said the company would no longer tolerate employees who thought neurological differences were character flaws. My mom tried to backtrack, saying she didn't realize Oliver was actually disabled. Mr. Harrison asked what she meant by actually disabled. My dad jumped in, saying they understood real disabilities, but so many people faked things these days. Mr. Harrison asked for examples of fake disabilities. My parents, not knowing when to stop, started talking about me. They told Mr. Harrison about their daughter, who claimed to be autistic, but was just looking for attention. They said I'd been normal until I read about autism online. They actually laughed about throwing away my diagnosis because enabling my delusions wouldn't help anyone. They said they knew better than doctors who just wanted money. They told the CEO of their company that they'd refused to acknowledge my autism because tough love was better than coddling. Mr. Harrison asked if I'd been professionally diagnosed, and they said yes, multiple times, but doctors would diagnose anyone these days. The room was silent. Full story on channel, link below.